Aasia Bibi, a 21-year-old woman from Muzaffargarh, Punjab, was forced into marriage with her cousin, a common but controversial practice in parts of South Asia. In deeply patriarchal societies, women often have little or no say in whom they marry, and defying such arrangements can lead to severe consequences, including social ostracization, honor-based violence, or even death. For Aasia, life after marriage was suffocating. She found herself bound to a man she did not love, stripped of autonomy, and expected to fulfill the traditional role of an obedient wife. Divorce was not an option, at least, not for a woman in her position. Cultural and family pressures made it impossible for her to simply walk away. Seeking outside help was equally hopeless. In many cases, even law enforcement turns a blind eye to forced marriages, leaving women trapped in cycles of abuse and control. With no support system, no legal recourse, and no way to escape without risking severe punishment, Aasia saw only one solution: eliminate the man she was forced to marry. It was a desperate, irreversible decision, one that, in her mind, would finally free her from the life she had never chosen. But what she did not anticipate was how a single act of defiance would spiral into an unimaginable tragedy, claiming far more lives than she had ever intended. Under the cover of routine, Aasia Bibi set her plan into motion. She carefully laced a container of milk with a lethal dose of poison, ensuring that it would be consumed by her husband. It was supposed to be a quiet act, unnoticed by the rest of the family, a final, desperate move to escape a life she never chose. She likely imagined that once he was gone, she would be free, no longer bound to a man she neither loved nor wanted. As she watched, waiting for him to drink, her heart must have pounded in her chest. But then, something unexpected happened. Her husband, either by instinct, distraction, or sheer luck, refused to drink the milk. Perhaps he wasn't thirsty. Perhaps the milk smelled off, though Aasia had been careful. Whatever the reason, he set it aside and walked away, completely unaware of how close he had come to death. Asia's plan had failed, or so she thought. What she did not realize was that her small act of defiance had set into motion a chain of events far beyond her control. The poisoned milk, left sitting in the household, would soon be repurposed, unknowingly mixed into a common, beloved drink meant to be shared among the entire family. What had started as an attempt to take one life would soon claim many. And when the first screams of agony rang through the house, it was already too late to stop what had been set in motion. Unaware of the deadly secret hidden in the milk, Aasia's mother-in-law decided to use it for something far more communal: a batch of Lassi, a traditional yogurt-based drink commonly served in large households. It was an ordinary day, and like any other, she prepared the refreshing beverage without a second thought, mixing the poisoned milk with yogurt and water before serving it to the family. One by one, relatives took sips of the drink, laughing, chatting, completely oblivious to the poison slipping into their systems. Aasia, standing among them, must have realized what was happening in that very moment. Her plan had spiraled far beyond her control. Then, the first signs of distress appeared. A family member clutched their stomach, wincing in pain. Another gasped for air, their body convulsing as they collapsed to the floor. Within minutes, the entire household was in chaos. Screams filled the air as people collapsed one after another, their bodies writhing in agony. Some tried to stand, stumbling as their strength failed. Others barely had time to react before the poison overtook them completely. 17 members of the family died, including Aasia's husband. 10 others suffered severe poisoning, fighting for their lives in critical condition. What was meant to be an escape from one man had become the unthinkable, an event that would leave an entire family shattered and an entire village in shock. And Aasia Bibi, the woman who had planned only to free herself, now stood at the center of one of the deadliest mass poisonings in Pakistan's history. The once bustling household had turned into a scene of horror. As news of the mass poisoning spread, neighbors and local authorities rushed to the home, finding bodies strewn across the floor, some lifeless, others barely clinging to consciousness. The survivors were rushed to the hospital, but for many, it was already too late. The sheer scale of the tragedy sent shockwaves through the community. The deaths of 17 people in a single incident demanded immediate answers. Investigators quickly ruled out accidental food contamination. It was clear this was no ordinary case of food poisoning. The Lassi had been deliberately tainted. Suspicion grew rapidly, and the police began questioning the surviving members of the family. It didn't take long before the truth started unraveling. Whispers spread that Aasia Bibi had been unhappy in her marriage. Some villagers claimed she had sought a way out. Then came the revelation: she had been seen near the container of milk before it was used. The pieces were falling into place. Under mounting pressure, Aasia was arrested along with a suspected accomplice, her alleged lover, Shahid Lassi. Authorities claimed he had supplied the poison, and together, they had planned the murder. During interrogation, Aasia initially denied any involvement. But as evidence mounted, reports emerged that she had confessed, though some believed the confession was coerced. The case was no longer just about a tragic miscalculation. It had become a national sensation, sparking debates about forced marriages, women's rights, and the devastating consequences of desperate actions. But for Aasia, the walls were closing in, and the justice system was preparing to deliver its verdict. The case quickly gained national attention, dominating headlines across Pakistan. Aasia Bibi, once an unknown village woman, had now become infamous as the central figure in one of the deadliest mass poisonings in the country's history. The scale of the tragedy, combined with the shocking motive behind it, fueled intense public debate. Was she a cold-blooded murderer or a victim of a society that left her with no escape? Authorities wasted no time in moving forward with prosecution. Aasia and her alleged accomplice, Shahid Lassi, were charged with multiple counts of murder and attempted murder. The evidence against them was damning. Witnesses confirmed her unhappiness in the marriage, and investigators linked Lassi to the procurement of the poison. While Aasia had initially denied the crime, police claimed she eventually confessed, though human rights activists questioned whether the confession was made under duress. Public opinion was deeply divided. Some saw Aasia as a ruthless killer who had carelessly taken the lives of innocent people. Others viewed her as a tragic figure, a young woman pushed to extremes by a culture that gave her no control over her own future. The case sparked renewed discussions about the dangers of forced marriage, a deeply entrenched issue in parts of Pakistan and South Asia. Legal experts weighed in, predicting that Aasia would face the death penalty if convicted. In a country where justice for women is often elusive, many noted the irony. Aasia had been powerless to escape her forced marriage, yet swift and harsh punishment awaited her for trying. As the trial loomed, the world watched closely. Would the court see her as a criminal who deserved the ultimate punishment? Or would they recognize her act as one of desperation in a society that had left her no other options? As Aasia Bibi awaited her fate behind bars, the weight of her actions, and their devastating consequences, hung heavy. What had begun as an attempt to escape a forced marriage had led to one of the deadliest family poisonings in Pakistan's history. 17 lives were lost, and the survivors, including herself, would never be the same. Her trial became a focal point of national debate, with human rights activists arguing that her case highlighted the dire consequences of forced marriages, a practice that continued to entrap thousands of women across South Asia. Others, however, saw her only as a murderer who had recklessly taken innocent lives. In the end, the law was unforgiving. Aasia Bibi and her alleged accomplice, Shahid Lassi, were sentenced to multiple counts of life imprisonment. Whether justice had been served depended on who was asked. Some believed the sentence was too harsh, given her circumstances, while others felt she had received the punishment she deserved. But beyond the courtroom, her story left a chilling lesson. It was not just about one woman's desperation, it was about a system that gave her no other way out. The case was a brutal reminder that when women are denied autonomy over their own lives, the consequences can be tragic, unpredictable, and sometimes, fatal. Aasia Bibi had wanted freedom. But the price she paid for it was far greater than she had ever imagined. Years have passed since Aasia Bibi's sentencing, yet her case remains one of the most haunting examples of desperation leading to devastation. The story of the poisoned Lassi is still discussed in legal, human rights, and feminist circles, serving as a grim warning about the consequences of forced marriages and lack of agency for women in conservative societies. Despite the global attention her case received, the deeply rooted issues that led to this tragedy persist. Forced marriages remain a common practice in parts of Pakistan and other regions, with many women finding themselves in situations similar to Aasia's, trapped, voiceless, and without legal recourse. The conversation around her case may have sparked awareness, but systemic change has been slow. For Aasia, life behind bars became her new reality. Whether she reflects on the gravity of her actions with regret or still believes she had no other choice, only she knows. But one thing is certain, her name will forever be tied to a crime that started as an attempt to reclaim her own life but ended in a catastrophe that shook an entire nation. The case of Aasia Bibi is not just about a poisoned drink, it's about a poisoned system, one that forces people to make unthinkable choices when they have no way out. Years have passed since Aasia Bibi's sentencing, yet her case remains one of the most haunting examples of desperation leading to devastation. The story of the poisoned Lassi is still discussed in legal, human rights, and feminist circles, serving as a grim warning about the consequences of forced marriages and lack of agency for women in conservative societies. Despite the global attention her case received, the deeply rooted issues that led to this tragedy persist. Forced marriages remain a common practice in parts of Pakistan and other regions, with many women finding themselves in situations similar to Aasia's, trapped, voiceless, and without legal recourse. The conversation around her case may have sparked awareness, but systemic change has been slow. For Aasia, life behind bars became her new reality. Whether she reflects on the gravity of her actions with regret or still believes she had no other choice, only she knows. But one thing is certain, her name will forever be tied to a crime that started as an attempt to reclaim her own life but ended in a catastrophe that shook an entire nation. The case of Aasia Bibi is not just about a poisoned drink, it's about a poisoned system, one that forces people to make unthinkable choices when they have no way out. If you found this story compelling and want to hear more true crime cases that uncover the dark realities of the world, subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you never miss an episode, and let's continue exploring the stories that deserve to be told. If you found this story compelling and want to hear more chilling true crime cases, subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think about this case? Let's uncover the darkest mysteries together.